welcome back, everybody, for another episode of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the video and article that I do for comicbookinvest.com, where I talk about those cheap books that you can still find tucked away in those dollar bins, those discount boxes, whether you're shopping at your LCS, the half-price books, yard sales, flea markets, whatever. Just some fun little things you can go and scavenger hunt style, go and hunt this weekend, based off of some of the recent news, rumors, announcements, things going on in the TV shows and animated shows on like Disney Plus, as well as things going on in the actual comics if you decide to take the time to read them. With that said, hopefully you're enjoying this as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And if you haven't given the Whatnot application a try, now's the perfect opportunity for you to do so. Click the link down below. You get a free $15 to spend on whatever you want, with whomever you want. Free $15, yours to use. And if you do, you sign up, new users, you get that free 15 bucks and you use it. You actually will help out me and the channel as a Whatnot ambassador. We would get a little bit back that helps keep the lights on and keeps things going here too. So perfect opportunity if you've never given it a try. Just go and give it a try. I mean, no, like I said, no other strings attached. Nothing else you need to do. So with that all said, if you want to see this week's books, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. Alrighty, so let's get this started, and we're going to start with a new kind of category because we've done news and we've done comics, but we're going to start off today's with some TV. So based off of some things you might see on TV, this can move books as well, and you know what I'm talking about. We talked about it last night on the tax show. Marco had some plans for the X-Men 97 to talk about some under the radar books because there's still some cheap stuff out there that you could find, and that's what we're talking about here. So based off of X-Men 97 and the big villain reveal, there are going to be spoilers throughout this show. So if you don't want it to be spoiled, go watch the show and then come back and watch this, and you'll know what you just saw, because the character, big reveal of the new big bad, or the big bad behind it all, isn't Mr. Sinister after all. It is actually this character, Bastion, who is a Sentinel hybrid character. That it's a very complicated story if you want to get into the whole Siege Perilous stuff and all that stuff. But point being, new big bad related to the Sentinels. They've been building towards this secretly. Like, I didn't think this is the way they were going to go, but it actually fits because this character was introduced right around this time frame in the 90s, in 96, 97. So with that said, this does make a whole lot of sense. So as I said, character of Bastion, you can find some interesting books still related to him and his first. Now, the first one I wasn't aware of, and again, this one comes from Marco, and he mentioned this one. I was like, really? I had no idea that this actually popped in. But to start us off, we're going to go all the way actually back to 1995. Age of Apocalypse. One of my favorite events. I do enjoy it. I love the alternate universe stuff, especially with the X-Men. Age of Apocalypse was awesome. One of the miniseries that was running throughout that time, not the Astonishing X-Men one, but there was also the Amazing X-Men. And with issue 2, there was actually mention of Bastion. Before he'd even hit any of the comics, he was name dropped here in this panel. You can see he's Apocalypse, a new horseman. He calls himself Abyss. That's who's on the cover here on the side. Abyss, a new horseman of the Apocalypse. In the Age of Apocalypse, the one rumored to have taken Bastion's place. Were they really thinking this far ahead? I don't know if it's supposed to be the same Bastion or not. It's pretty cool if it is, but it's weird that they just would use that name if it isn't. Point being, it's a fun little note, just a tidbit. Again, it's just the name. He's not in the book or anything. It's just his name. And it may not even be related to him because this is an alternate universe. But the idea planted here a year before he shows up is kind of interesting. This book, along with many of the Age of Apocalypse books, are very, very cheap. So look, you can find this thing 25 cents. Somebody won one for 25 cents on eBay. And then you got other sales for $2.64 for 3 issues, and then the whole lot of 4 issues for this mini $12 as well. Not expensive at all. Available copies if you were to go shopping. Well, there are some asking a few bucks for some reason or another, 7, 10, $18, but you can also find the cheap ones too. And I'm telling you, these are buried in those back issue boxes for nothing. So go ahead, go dig one out. If you're in, I mean, get it just for the sake that this is a fun event in and of itself. But it is his first mention. So I just thought it was a fun little tidbit. But with that said, I think the bulk of the volume, because we're seeing it already. We're seeing it already, and these next couple of books might even make it to the hot 10. I haven't done all the numbers and crunched the sales and all that stuff, but X-Men 97 has been moving comics, so we shouldn't be surprised that a book like this, X-Men 52, which is the first cameo, I guess we'll call it. I mean, it makes sense. I don't like to get into the minutia and the all the stupid arguments over what's a first full, what's a first cameo, and all that. I mean, a lot of times it's just semantics of who wants to sell what for whatever reason. But to be fair, I can see cameo being used in this one because while we do get the character's name, we do see him. We don't really see him because he's completely in shadow. So the character is here interacting with other characters, but Buzz is, never want to cross Bastion, but you don't actually see him. He's all in shadow. So cameo feels right. And like I said, it's right over here. So, and also you get it teased at the very end of this book. We got a little bit of the Dark Beast stuff here, but right here at the bottom, in X-Men 333, the X-Men versus Bastion. So he's name dropped again, knowing that he's coming. Mentioned there at the bottom of this issue. So this book, definitely we can call it a cameo. It's doing okay. I mean, look, copies have sold. Well, this and that Uncanny book that we just mentioned, and we will be getting to next, $18. This on its own, like $7. A couple of sales recently within the last couple of days. There are still cheap copies out there. Granted, they might not be in the best condition. As you can see, a copy listed for $1.50 for a fine to very fine. And then you got other copies listed for like $11, $20 for a pair. There's a lot of these out there. There's a lot of these buried in boxes. You can probably still find them for a buck or a couple of bucks and get them pretty cheap. If you're interested. Probably would make sense to get this as well as our next book if you want to get the complete Bastion first experience. So this is that book that it mentioned at the end of that X-Men there. So this is Uncanny X-Men 333. And while he is not on the cover, people hate that, he is clearly introduced here inside the guts of this book. And you get to see him and all of his weird purple and black fuchsia outfitted glory. But yeah, there it is. And he's got little crazy eyes. This book also been doing well this week since the reveal on the show. So copies are now selling for like $10, as you can see here. Available copies are now getting listed for a little bit more, $8 to $10, 15. There are still plenty of cheap copies of this out there as well because Uncanny, it was the X-Men were very, very popular at this time. This is in the 90s. This is 1996, 1997. The X-Men were still one of the best-selling books out there. So there are a lot of them. Keep that in mind as well. But that's why you can go and dig these out for fun. Don't go getting FOMO and spending $20 for these books on online when you can go and dig in a box somewhere near you and get it for just a couple. Good luck. Good luck, though. With that said, X-Men 97 gave us more than just the reveal of Bastion. They also gave us a good sense of what Bastion is also bringing to the table, as we also got teases of OZT. And then you're looking like, OZT? What the heck is OZT? What is it? I don't know. Rogue, she was going in and she's finding out, and there's clues all throughout this of like what OZT is. And what it is, it's an event. And it's an event that's probably going to be what's taking place over these final 3 episodes because it's Operation Zero Tolerance. Again, Marvel crossover across a bunch of X-Men books happened at the time. This is actually mentioned in that Uncanny book. That is the first appearance of Bastion. So inside Uncanny 333, we do get the first mention of Operation Zero Tolerance here inside the guts of this book. However, it's not the storyline. That happens a little bit later, a year later, actually, once we get to it, starting with Cable 45. So if you want to get into Operation Zero Tolerance, there's a lot of parts to this, a lot of pieces. They are all very, very cheap. This was not like one of those expensive events where it's like, oh, you got to go and hunt all the books and it's going to cost you a bunch of money, because these are all books you can find in these cheap boxes. So Cable 45 is the first part of Operation Zero Tolerance. You can see it sells for $253. It's not a pricey book at all. Listed copies, $2 to $3. Very, very cheap. And as I mentioned, the whole event goes over a bunch of books. You've got the prelude stuff as well as the prologue, which we're going to get to in a minute. And then we have the main body of the storyline. You can see here running through most of 1997 in those like late summer months. And then you got the conclusion, some aftermath, and other tie-ins. A lot of books here listed that you can go and find. Again, Cable to Generation X to X-Men and X-Force, etc. Wolverine even. It was an interesting storyline, and I'm kind of curious to see how it's going to get handled as the show kind of wraps up this first season. With that said, another bit that they introduced, and we kind of talked a little bit last week. Even when you think about last week's show, I was talking about what was going on in the actual X-Men comics and in the rise and the fall of the House of X, all of that stuff. There's a lot of use of Nimrod, who is actually part of Bastion. That's what I'm saying. Bastion's kind of weird. It's like a human fused with Nimrod and Siege Perilous. Point being, Mega Sentinel of it was Master Mold and Nimrod basically kind of being put together, and also this human aspect of this other guy being Bastion. This is how we got Bastion. Anyway, like I said, weird stuff. You don't want to get too deep into the details because then you pick it apart and be like, man, that's kind of dumb. It is what it is. It's comic books after all. But as I mentioned, Nimrod last week, as well as the Omega Sentinel. I can't remember her name, but she is like a byproduct of all these evolutions of the Sentinels. But to go from the giant robots to even the Omega Sentinel, we did have the Prime Sentinels, which were dropped right here in this episode as well. When when my man was basically zombified, comes back as this nanite driven super killing machine. That's kind of what Bastion did in Operation Zero Tolerance, as he introduced the Prime Sentinels, which were like human cyborgs. They were like sleeper agents, almost like one-man army corps. If you OMAC, if you think of those from the DC side of things, but that's what these Prime Sentinels were. They were no longer huge kaiju-sized, robot killing machines. They were more subtle, like these were human sized. They could blend in and then be activated at a moment's notice, basically. Now, when you look into researching the Prime Sentinels, I looked into this and was researching a couple of different areas, and a couple of them kept pointing to this book, X Factor 123, as the first appearance of the Prime Sentinels. I read this book again, like since the 90s. I just read it today. I don't see where they're mentioned. I see there's soldiers in it. There's the Hound, this kind of a mutant killing machine thing, but it's not exactly the same. So I don't know why these places are listing this as the first Prime Sentinels. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I just kind of sped through it when I was kind of scanning it while I was reading it. So if I'm missing something and you can explain to me why this would be their first appearance, please tell me in the comments down below. But I'm just mentioning it because, one, this is still a very, very cheap book, so it doesn't matter if you take $1 flyer on it, because as you can see here, copies sold for this X Factor 123, 99 cents, $1.27. This is a very cheap book. It doesn't matter. Available copies, $3, 99 cents there, $6 there. It's very, very cheap. So you've got nothing to lose if you want to take a shot. I'm saying online resources are saying this is the first appearance of the Prime Sentinels, but I didn't see it personally, which is why I didn't show you any interior panels supporting that. However, I think the first time we really see them is when they're used in Operation Zero Tolerance here in the prologue issue. This is the one that basically kicks off the whole thing before we get to part 1 with Cable. And it's X-Men 65 as they're being attacked right there on the cover by these Prime Sentinels. We don't know a lot about them or what they are yet at this time, but that's them. This book also, pretty cheap. You can find it out there. Look, $3, $4. Not an expensive book. Available copies. Well, $3. You can see some copies listed for like 10, $9, $10. And then look, a 9.8 is got one bid at 74, $75. So if you want to get a graded copy, take a shot at that as well. But that would be your first Prime Sentinels, as far as I can tell, in my own readings and research. If you want to know a little bit more about them and when their secret of there was revealed, it's during, throughout the story. It's kind of in the middle of it, but here in this Wolverine issue, you can even see it right on the front. The secret of the Prime Sentinels. So we get to learn a little bit about what they are and where they came from in this issue of Wolverine number 116. And here they show like all of these Frankenstein body parts, like there's hands and skulls and all these cybernetic parts that are being fused with these humans and turned into basically like these sleeper agents. And you can see the Jean Grey figuring out when they were talking to this guy with no eyeballs who is looking to get his eyeballs replaced by the doctor in this book, who is basically going to turn him into a Prime Sentinel without his knowledge. But with that said, another cheap book. Again, this isn't expensive stuff. This is why it's kind of fun. And I like seeing things like this get brought back to light by things like this X-Men 97 show, which is fantastic, by the way. If you haven't watched it yet, so far in, and I've said it week after week, but definitely give it a watch. But $1.50 to $3, like this is a very cheap book here too that you can go and find. Some copies listed $2, $5, $7. I mean, yeah, $7. You're not gonna get rich if you go and dig this out of a box, but if you want to get some of this story and know kind of where we're going, you can get a head start. Go start reading this and you'll kind of get a good idea. Not to say this is definitely what they're going to do. I mean, they've tweaked and jumped around and kind of repurposed a lot of things even in this story, but it's still kind of fun to see some of these stories play out. Maybe not on live action, but even animated in the production quality they have too. It's been done very, very well. But that's my X-Men 97 stuff for today. Thanks again to Marco for giving me some of the info here that we were going to talk about on TAC yesterday, but we had so much to do with the Deadpool stuff that we just saved, and he thought it was a good idea. I just cover it here today on Dollar Bin Digging, so I appreciate that. We're not done yet, though. We're not done. We're not only doing Bastion, and we're not only doing X-Men 97. I do have a little bit of news. I cut it down, so I'm only going to do one news story because, again, we just did a lot with the Bastion stuff. But in the news, saw this yesterday, that Ming-Na Wen was talking about a possible return. I know people are talking about Coulson maybe coming back, and Chloe Bennett also bringing Quake back. Who knows? Why not the Cavalry? So Melinda May, wouldn't mind seeing her brought back. She was actually introduced into the comics thanks to the popularity of the Marvel's Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, which wasn't the greatest show. It had its misfires. Like a couple of seasons were a little wonky, but all in all, it was a decent show and a lot of fun to watch. I don't regret watching that show, but yeah, the Inhuman stuff was very, very drawn out and pretty weak. But other than that, I enjoyed the show. I even liked the Ghost Rider bit, the Robbie Reyes stuff. But that all said, Melinda May was introduced into the comics, and a lot of people will point out and go to the adaptation of the S.H.I.E.L.D. show. So inspired by the hit TV series, we got there's a bunch of covers on this too. But we got a new number one, Coulson, right there, and the Cavalry, Melinda May. She also gets like a special, like a one-shot all her own, based on the Cavalry. But this book, it's very cheap. I mean, look, only thing I can find sold was $25, was a complete set of 1 through 12. So that's like $2 a book. Available copies, $6 for the first six issues of the series, $1.58. $2.37 for one of the other variant covers. Because like I said, there's a lot of variants for this series. So a lot of variant covers. Not all incentives. There are just a lot of B's and C variants and whatnot. So help yourself to whatever one you want. They're all pretty cheap. So yeah. But realistically, while this is the number one of the TV show adaptation, and this was, this came out in December of 2014. Prior to that, there was a comic that she appeared in. So this is technically her first appearance in comics because this came out in June of 2014. However, this is a promo book. This is not a book you could have gotten at any store. This is a deal that Marvel had with Lexus, and basically you had to get this at a Lexus dealership. I don't know if you only got it by buying a car or if you could get it just by showing up, test driving, or what. But in conjunction with Lexus, this was a free promotional book that says, not for resale. So it wasn't meant to be sold. And this is their first comic appearances. Because again, it's not till another 6 months that we get the actual, other books. But with that said, I couldn't find any recently sold for this promo book. Nor could I find any raw copies once I got to what was listed, because all of these were graded. Some of these are even signature series signed. But this is what we're talking about. So this is just one of those odd, weird books that maybe you can find in a box. This is the weird, fun stuff that I like digging out, like the Sleepy's mattress stuff, the Taco Bell stuff, the Pizza Hut books, like the weird, like promotional books that Marvel does. These are fun, and these are fun to go and dig out of those, those dollar boxes and those cheap boxes, because they don't often get looked up or even bothered to get priced. But as you can see here, some people did bother and did get them graded, because graded copies, $150, $94 for a 9.2, $250. And then again, like I said, some of those are signed. But just a fun little tidbit and a fun little book to, give you guys to go and keep an eye out for, right? I don't know. I thought it was fun, at least. I'm going to look for it when I go out digging. And with that, just to keep it consistent with how we normally do this show, we will get into our comics section. But once again, since we did so much of the Bastion stuff at the front of this one, I had to cut this one a little bit short. And we are only going to be covering one comic this week. And it is not a book that we covered yesterday on the Tax Show, but this is a new book that came out from DC this week. We got to give DC some love here, too. We don't want to just do all Marvel. So Green Arrow number 11 had a number of characters that we can talk about, because there's a lot going on here in this Green Arrow series. It's not bad. It's not a bad run. I mean, Williamson is an excellent writer, and I could have covered some of this stuff last issue, because a lot of these characters kind of pop back up to get into this story. But apparently we got some sort of family feud, a lot of fighting and infighting going on with our arrows, and there are a ton of Arrow characters. As you can see here, there's no Green Arrow here. We've got, Arsenal, and you got Connor, and then a whole bunch of other Arrow-related characters that we can get into, and that's what we're going to get into. I'm going to skip the two bigger guys because, again, their firsts are known and a little bit pricey, like I said. So we're not going to do, his first sidekick. We're not going to do Roy Harper, and we're not going to do Connor Hawk, because, again, those ones have kind of been known for a while, and they're a little bit pricey. So we're going to skip those ones and start in from left to right. We're going to go back here. We're going to start off with her, and this is Red Canary. Red Canary is a relatively newer character who just showed up during like Dark Crisis stuff. We got to give you a couple of books for this one, because there was a cameo. Again, this is truly cameo. Again, I don't like doing the semantics thing, but here we go with Dark Crisis number 3. There are multiple covers. I chose to show you the cover where she's on the design cover, because they wanted to show off this new character they were introducing. But realistically, inside the guts of this book, all you are getting is this one close-up panel of her eyeball. That's it. So, yeah, I guess that's her. Unnamed. You don't see much. You just see one eyeball and a couple fingers and half of her nose. So, cameo seems right. But again, this is a book. You can find these for cover price or less. This is DC event books, so most likely you'll find it for cheaper. Online, though, you're going to see a lot of cover price type sales in that $4 to $5 range, as well as listings in that $4 to $5 range, with the occasional like $10 ask. And because people, they're just asking for a little bit more. They're trying to get the most that they can. Nothing wrong with that. But go dig in a box. Maybe you can find this half off a cover somewhere in some dealer overstock box, or in just a regular old dollar bin. So yeah, that's what you're getting. That little tease, a little cameo, whatever. We get a first full appearance later on in the event. So we have Dark Crisis, the Dark Army number 1. Again, I chose the cover that spotlighted her. She's also spotlighted on the 1 in 25, which you'll see is also not that expensive. But a couple of covers on this one. I chose this one because, again, it's featuring the character we're talking about. Inside the story, again, you get your Red Canary's introducing herself, all that stuff. She's in the story throughout. It's more than just this. So feel comfortable. This is more the book that you probably want to look for rather than that one panel. Though she is on the cover. There is a good cover. That design cover is not bad. So, you pick your poison or get them both. to cover your bases. Who knows what you want to do? But another case where, $5, or actually one sold for $6. These are the only sales I could find. One sold for $6, and then I mentioned that one in 25 sold only for $9, and that was for a one in 25. And I don't know if it's foil or not, but still, that's the incentive. Not too bad. Asking prices, however, it's again that cover price kind of range: $4, $5. That's it. So I don't know. Help yourself to it if you want to go and dig for this character. But we got a couple of more arrows to give you. So let's get back to our wide shot. Again, they're throughout this new book too. Well, not a ton, but they're in the beginning and they kind of come back around to the end as they tease. In the middle, there's like a flashback sequence with Merlin and Green Arrow, but whatever. We're not talking about the recent book that came out this week. We're talking about connections to the characters in that book and their first appearances. So let's get to the next character. Front and center here, right here, our next character, which is the Red Arrow. Few characters have had this name, including Roy, Arsenal, who is also Speedy. Like some of these characters have shared names, but the current Red Arrow, here, this is Emmy. I think her name is Emmy. Is Roy's not Roy's sister, Connor's half sister. Green Arrow. There's a lot of ways because it's like Shadow and Ollie have this daughter, and she's raised by a villain, and they find out about it later. And I know it's convoluted. We don't want to get that deep into it right now. We can one day, but point being, Green Arrow number 18. This is the new 52 run of Green Arrow. Like, and I think the issue before might have even been the first Diggle. But in this book, we get introduced to the little girl Emmy, who is eventually we find out that she is who she is. In this, she looks to be again the daughter of the villain Komodo. I think her name was Komodo, because he had kind of like taken her and raised her as his own, as kind of like an assassin and a villain. So she's pretty badass, even as a kid, and pretty messed up. As you can see, he's bringing her in, basically on like a torture execution of these people here. Anyway, point being, this is her first appearance as the character of Emmy. Yeah, before she takes on a superhero moniker. $3 one of these sold for. It's not expensive, and that's like the only sale I really came across. Asking prices $4, $5, up to $10. It's new 52 stuff. You can find this out there for cheap. So go ahead, go dig, have some fun. But if you want her first as the superhero character of Red Arrow, well, then we got to get to Rebirth with issue 15 of Green Arrow. And inside this, we see Emmy, call me Red Arrow. So there we go. She's got her moniker, or she takes on the moniker. This again, even Rebirth stuff, not expensive. $250. Oh, one sold for $850. Oh, I'm sorry. $850 was for issues 15 to 34. So $8.50 got all of what was it, almost 20 issues of the series. So yeah, that's how cheap this stuff is. $254 is probably a premium price. Asking prices 99 cents, $3, $250. You get the point. This is very, very cheap stuff, but this is the kind of fun stuff. If you just like having fun digging for comics and giving yourself something to look for, this is why I do this. Yes, there are books that you can make a lot of money on if you find them, but you already know those books, or you should know those books. I'm not going to tell you to go look for a New Mutants 98 or an ASM 300 in a dollar box, because you obviously are going to look for that. If you find it, great. But this is the kind of weird stuff that while you're looking for that stuff, hoping to find those big scores, find some fun, weird stuff for yourself. Read it. You know, that's what these are for. With that, we still got a couple more. We're not done. We are not done yet. I got two more for you. Up next, right here, sitting down, we're going to go to Arrowette. Easy to confuse these two, these next two. They're both blonde, just like it was easy to confuse Red Canary and Red Arrow. It's just very similar looks and very similar names. But here we go with Arrowette. Arrowette, I think we've even talked about her before. I think I brought her up on Dollar Bin Digging once before, but it doesn't hurt to bring it back. So, Arrowette, I can't remember what her not human name, her real name is, like Siri or CC or something. But she first showed up way back in Impulse number 28 as a villain, and then gets turned, I guess, to the side of good and becomes like a sidekick extra Arrow character, because Yeah, just like everything. There's tons of back characters, tons of flashes, there's tons of arrows, tons of super people. This is par for the course, right? But with that said, copy sold on this Impulse 28. $6, 5, $6. Best offer on $8. Not a pricey book, but fun first. She's right there on the covers. I didn't even have to show you what's on the insides because she's right there on the cover. Meet Arrowette. That's your positive first appearance right there. Don't need to argue. $7, $8, $10 for issues 28 and 29. Not an expensive book at all. So, but once again, just one little fun thing you can go dig for. And then we got one more. So one more Arrow character before we finish up here. So way over here in the back, yes, we do still have a Speedy, and here is our current Speedy, who is Mia Dearden, I think is what her name is, and why that's important is because Speedy wasn't always Speedy. And as you know, Roy was Speedy for a while, etc. But way back in 2001, Kevin Smith's run on Green Arrow here with Phil Hester, he decided to get a little more adult, I guess. We're serious. We don't want to give a serious comic book writer. For Kevin Smith, he's not just jokey Clark guy. So we get introduced to this character, Mia Dearden, who is basically a sex worker. I don't know if it's not a good situation. Let's just say that she finds herself in, and Green Arrow saves her from this. If you read this book, it's not an easy read these days, but he saves her from this situation is the bottom line. This is where the character gets introduced. So this is her. We'll find out she'll transition into the hero later on. But this is again a cheap book. This is Green Arrow number 2, $1.85, $1. Even online, this only sells for $1. Asking prices 50 cents with no bids, $2, $4.50. Not expensive at all. Definitely a book you can find out there in a dollar box and find it for cheap if you want it. Also good to probably cover yourself if you want to go and collect these types of first appearances. Also get her first appearance as Speedy, which boom, enter Speedy right on the cover. Once again, these are those easy ones, but the character's been around for 40 plus issues. So even though this is her first as Speedy, the character, we met her in issue 2, so you probably want that one as well. But if you want this one does okay. Just like the rest, it's like $6, $3.50 even, $3.55, $6. Not expensive at all. Asking prices $3, $8, $10, but a lot of cheap first appearances. I mean, who knows what could happen with any of these characters? At some point, they could be the next big thing. Who knows, right? Or it's just fun stuff to go and dig for. And that's all I got for you this week. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you found that fun, helpful, gave you some fun things to go and hunt for and go and dig for, because that's the whole point of why I do this. Like I said, just like a little scavenger hunt for you to go and find some books that you can just enjoy, collect. It ties into stuff that, like I said, it's going on in the news. Yes, could be spec worthy, but that's not really the point, because realistically, I'm not going to tell you that you're going to make a ton of money finding this stuff. You might, but let's keep the hobby fun. All right. With that said, like I said, check out all the links below. Check out all the other shows here on the channel, and I will be back with some more content soon. All right. Later.